Hi guys, back again with us at Recap in Minutes. This film tells the story of a geeky student who was often bullied at his school. He suddenly turned into a different person. By loosening his tie, he began to beat up the people who had bullied him. Actually, he changed after his body was taken over by a very terrible gangster. How can they return to their respective bodies? This story begins with a violent gang leader. Being a gangster does not escape violence. Like a gangster named Jung Pan-Soo, he sent his subordinate, Mon-chul, to go to one of the factories to force the owner of the factory to sign the factory surrender. Initially, the factory owner named Kim Jong-ki refused to sign the letter. However, because he was threatened that his hand would be cut off, he finally agreed to sign the letter. The next day, Jung Pan-Soo stopped by a small noodle shop. There he met a geeky high school student named Kim Dong-Hyun. When Kim Dong-Hyun was eating, he received a phone call from someone. After calling, he left in a hurry, intending to pay. Turns out he forgot to bring his wallet. Pan-Soo pity and intends to pay for the geeky kid's food. It turned out that Dong-Hyun was being bullied by his school friends. He was told to take a shoe on one of the poles there. By climbing the boundary wall, he accidentally slipped and fell down. He also fell on the body of Pan-Soo, who happened to be sitting on the road. They both were taken to the hospital. Pan-Soo woke up from his fainting spells. He accidentally saw a person who was unconscious, which turned out to be his own body. Pan-Soo, who is confused, sees Jong-ki, the man who owns the factory as well as Dong-Hyun's father, approaching him anxiously. Because he was increasingly confused, he looked at the mirror, not his face that appeared, but Dong-Hyun's face. They immediately met the doctor. Then he was diagnosed with memory loss due to his different behavior. Pan-Soo, who is healthy, starts school and plays the role of Dong-Hyun. The first day he entered school, he was faced with a bad student who was bullying another student. The girl who was bullied was none other than Dong-Hyun's friend Oh-Hyun Jung. The bad girl bullies Hyun Jung by spilling food on her body. Pan-Soo intends to defend Hyun Jung. Those who used to bully Dong-Hyun were shocked when he shouted at them. After school, Pan-Soo meets the bad boy. With the gangster experience he has, Pan-Soo intends to teach them a lesson. Pan-Soo beat them easily. Not only that, the bad boy was looking for prey again, by bullying other geeky children. While they were bullying the child in the toilet, Pan-Soo came out of the toilet and confiscated one of the bad boy's cell phones. When he came back to Dong-Hyun's house, he started checking the cell phone of that bad boy. He finds a video, which contains the events of bullying Dong-Hyun before he fell from the roof of the school. By seeing the video, Pan-Soo already knows the face of the boss of the bad boys. The next day Pan-Soo goes to see the boss of the bad boy. Pan-Soo finally makes a deal with them, to stay away from him if they don't want to be reported to the police. Pan-Soo, who was in the body of Dong-Hyun, desperate to go to his office to meet his men, Mon-chul. Pan-Soo explains that his body has been swapped with Dong-Hyun. Initially his men did not believe in talking about Pan-Soo, but he came to believe when Pan-Soo mentioned a few things that other people may not know unless he and Pan-Soo, because they both were partners for a long time. The next day, when Pan-Soo was walking home from Dong-Hyun's school, he was hit by Hyun Jung, who was running. Hyun Jung accidentally drops the doll. Pan-Soo goes after Hyun Jung to return it. Until he meets Hyun Jung in a narrow alley, suddenly Hyun Jung's mother named Mi-soon approaches them. Pan-Soo fell silent to see it. It turns out that Hyun Jung's mother was his ex-girlfriend when he was young. Pan-Soo took hair from his unconscious body. Then he took Hyun Jung's hair at school. He tries to do a DNA test, but it turns out that Pan-Soo's hunch is right that Hyun Jung is his daughter with Mi-soon. When he saw Hyun Jung at her school getting bullied, Pan-Soo ordered his men, Mon-chul, to break the legs of the student who bullied Hyun Jung. Not wanting to hurt the children, his men refused Pan-Soo's request. To keep his daughter, Pan-Soo provides self-defense training to Hyun Jung so that she can fight when herself in bully. With that practice too, Pan-Soo intends to diet to make Dong-Hyun's fat body ideal. After practicing hard enough, finally Pan-Soo was able to make Dong-Hyun's body ideal, which made the students fascinated with his changes. At night when Jung-ki, Dong-Hyun's father, was walking home, he was intercepted by some thugs to collect a debt. Then he was beaten up badly. Pan-Soo, who crossed the street, saw Dong-Hyun's father being beaten and helped him. Jung-ki, who thought it was his son, started protecting his son's body. He prevented them from hitting Dong-Hyun's body. Because of his affection for Dong-Hyun, it touched Pan-Soo. Pan-Soo tells Mon-chul to come to the den of thugs who beat Dong-Hyun's father. Mon-chul, who comes alone, can beat them empty-handed. The next day at the school canteen, Hyun-Jung is ready to be the target of the bad student there. With the training she had done, she dared to fight them until they did not move. Pan-Soo, who saw her from a distance, felt proud of what his daughter was doing. At night, Pan-Soo visits Mi-soon at her little noodle shop. However, he gets angry when he sees Mi-soon getting indecent treatment from a drunk customer. Pan-Soo does not accept it, so he starts a fight with the man, until the man almost dies. After that incident, Pan-Soo finally explained that his body was switched with Dong-Hyun, who is currently in his body, and he is unconscious. Mi-soon doesn't believe it. Finally Pan-Soo says something that only Mi-soon and himself know. Mi-soon finally expresses her disappointment to Pan-Soo for leaving her. Then she kicked Pan-Soo out of the shop. The next day, Pan-Soo and Hyun-Jung are chatting, then are approached by a popular male student. He invited Hyun-Jung to come to his birthday party. With a blushed face, Hyun-Jung finally said yes to the man's invitation. Hyun-Jung comes to the party alone, and is greeted by male students who invited her. Elsewhere in the party, a geeky child that Pan-Soo has helped is being enslaved by bad girls. There he heard their conversation about Hyun-Jung being tricked at the party. Pan-Soo, who did not join the party, turned out to go to see Mi-soon at a cafe. Pan-Soo feels regretful, but because Mi-soon still feels hurt by Pan-Soo's past behavior, he finally leaves. But he is arrested and suddenly Pan-Soo kisses her. Mi-soon gets angry and then slaps Pan-Soo, then pulls him out of the cafe. When outside, Mi-soon still grabs Pan-Soo's hand and suddenly Pan-Soo gets a call about Hyun-Jung, who is in danger, then he immediately leaves. At the party venue, Hyun-Jung was surrounded by several boys, one of the male students who invited her. She was forced to drink alcoholic beverages. She refused. Feeling rejected, the male student spilled the drink on Hyun-Jung's head. When he arrived at the party venue, Pan-Soo was stopped by two bodyguards there. He beat them and finally Pan-Soo was able to pass them. In that place, Pan-Soo went straight to Hyun-Jung and asked her to go. But he was blocked by the men there, and finally he started fighting. He also won victory, then he took Hyun-Jung out. The next day, Pan-Soo runs into Mon-chul somewhere. Mon-chul informs him that his wife is having an affair and cooperates with his enemies to bring him down. Then he ordered his subordinates to give a letter to his father-in-law about his wife's affair and family betrayal. In front of Mi-soon's shop, Pan-Soo gets a confession from Hyun-Jung. Pan-Soo refused, because he could not possibly date his daughter. At night in the hospital, Pan-Soo's enemy sneaks into the place where Pan-Soo's unconscious body is being treated. Suddenly, Dong-Hyun, who was in Pan-Soo's body, woke up and shocked Pan-Soo's enemy until he fell unconscious. Dong-Hyun, who hasn't realized what happened to him, returns to his original house. His father was shocked and screamed in fear. Then Pan-Soo, who came with Dong-Hyun's body, tried to calm him down by hitting his head. After that he explained about the state of those whose bodies were switched. The next day Pan-Soo took Dong-Hyun with his body to Mi-soon's shop. Suddenly, some gangsters who turned out to be Pan-Soo's enemy came to meet him. Pan-Soo also told the two of them to hide in the kitchen. Pan-Soo fights them alone, until suddenly he is cornered and can't fight them. "Me soon, bring the gas cylinder out and the matches." She threatened that the men would blow up the shop because they didn't want to die silly, so the men left there. Not wanting to lose the inheritance of his father-in-law, Pan-Soo told Dong-Hyun to come to his father-in-law's house with his body. It turns out that their Pan-Soo's wife came too. Dong-Hyun, who is being directed by Pan-Soo with a hearing aid, tells him to follow his words. Pan-Soo's father-in-law sided with him more, which made her angry. But suddenly the hearing aid got into trouble and made Dong-Hyun unable to hear Pan-Soo's words. When Pan-Soo's father-in-law asked him what he wanted, Dong-Hyun confusedly finally replied that Pan-Soo didn't want to continue his father-in-law's career as the head of the gang and wanted to start a new life. Dong-Hyun then came out and was greeted by Pan-Soo's hug, because he knew that Dong-Hyun answered it for the good of Pan-Soo in the future. In a car, Pan-Soo's wife, who had a grudge against him, drove her car so fast that it hit Pan-Soo, who was in Dong-Hyun's body. He was finally taken by an ambulance and headed to the hospital. In the hospital, when he was dying, he meets Jung and explains everything about how much he loves his daughter. Suddenly Pan-Soo, who was in Dong-Hyun's body, fainted, followed by Dong-Hyun, who was in Pan-Soo's body. In the operating room, he saw the grandmother of the shop owner, who promised to give him a gift. The grandmother started to operate on him. 6 months later, Dong-Hyun has returned to his original body and started school. At school, he no longer received bullying from students there. Likewise with Jung, at school they became popular students. Regarding Pan-Soo, he finally got back with his first love Me soon by making a bigger noodle shop than before, with the help of Dong-Hyun's father and Mon-chul, his men. Okay guys, so that's the story from The Dude in Me, which has a very interesting story. From exchanging bodies with a high school student, he was finally able to meet the woman who was his first love and his daughter. Until here, the video from us, just keep on watching and see you.